So if you have to stop and start, it's okay. It doesn't matter. We'll edit it together later. Okay. So, for some of you, this is going to be upside down, but it'll still basically make sense, I think. We are looking at terms for some dimensions of different parts of a layout in the printing process. Okay? So, we're going to start with, let's see, I think I'll use a lighter color for this. Okay. All right, this is a magazine spread. Finished in the publication. Okay? Now, so this represents the cut size of the finished thing. Okay? And here's the gutter or the spine where the pages are bound together. Right? So, this dimension is what's known as the trim size. The trim size is the size it is when it's completed. Now, you guys saw from making your booklets, whether you realized it or not, that sometimes the pages closest to the centerfold will be smaller than the pages closest to the cover, because depending on how many pages are stacked together and how they're bound, they come out not all exactly the same size and they have to be trimmed to give you a clean edge. Okay? So the pages that are in the centerfold area are smaller. They're not smaller both ways. The centerfold area, they're narrower. And the ones that are closer to the outside cover are wider because of the way the bindery works when the pages stack together. Okay. Now, we put crop marks on at the corners when we're building a layout plan, and I'm exaggerating their size here so I can be sure that you can see them. Okay? They're called crop marks, or sometimes they're called trim marks. Crop and trim are not exactly the same thing, but they're so close to true that terms are interchangeable. Technically, crop is something you do to a photo. Trim is something you do to a printed media, but we use them pretty much the same. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you some stuff in a little bit to clarify this, but it matters how the crop marks are done in general. Okay? So we're going to make a bigger kind of like zoom of this over here. Okay, so here's my page corner coming down like that. Crop marks are typically about 1/4 of an inch to 2 picas in length. 1/4 of an inch is the same thing as 1.5 picas or 1 P6, or a quarter of an inch, 0.25 inches. They're about that long. Okay, and they always have a gap in here between the end of the mark and the corner of where you're going to cut. That gap is what's known as the offset. So when we ran the crop marks filter in InDesign with that script to make that work, it did that. Okay? Then they are always registration color, which we're going to talk about a little bit more. That's the color they are. So they're actually a combo. When they're printed with ink, they're a combo of all the colors of ink that are being used in the document piled on top of each other. So they're used to help align all the plates to each other. And then they're usually 1/4 of a point in thickness, in line weight. Okay? Thick is the same thing as line weight. We need to be careful that we use like weight and length and size and words that can mean different things in different contexts appropriately, so we all catch what's going on, mean the same thing at the same time. And that's important that we use the term the same way at the same time for everybody. Okay, now, inside of this space, we have typically some kind of margin. Okay, now, let's say I've got a margin like this. I'm just going to kind of draw it in. Very commonly, in something that's being prepared for a spread, you're going to see this in graphics math too. Typically, they're mirror images of each other, the space that we're using, right? They're hardly ever not mirror images on right and left pages. Okay, this dimension here, this pink stuff, that dimension is called the live area. The live area is the space you have inside of your defined margins. And these are actually the designer's margins, the design margins. The opposite of design margins is print margins, okay? Like if you are printing something on, let's say we've got a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and we're running it through one of our printers here, right? There is a point at which you can't print anymore, any closer to the edge than that, because of the limitations of the device, right? So it might be somewhere between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 on sort of 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch on a good office printer. You get what I mean when I say office printer, as opposed to like a home printer that's cheapy inkjet, costs $29 at Walmart. That's a different kind of machine. Okay, the margins are usually bigger. The margins are usually bigger on a cheapy one, but that's called the print margin. The print margin is the amount of space around the edge of the sheet of paper that you cannot image because of the way the printer works. You can't get the ink out that far. Okay? And the area in whatever is not part of that margin in smaller printers is called the imageable area. The imageable area, these are a lot of terms here. That's why I thought we better record this and then you can like play it later and go, what, get into your notes, Because if I have you writing things down, you're just not going to look at the same time. It just isn't going to work. Okay? So the imageable area is the part you can use. Okay? Okay, we got the live area over here, and we have margins. These are the design margins. So we've got a top margin. You're doing some similar stuff in graphics math. I know you are. In those handouts, we talked about some of that. And commonly, the inside margins are smaller and the outside margins are larger. And also commonly, the top margin is smaller and the bottom margin is larger. And commonly, the bottom margin is the largest. Of the four that go around, commonly the bottom one is the largest one. Not always, but commonly.